My husband's mistress showed up at my door crying. I sent her man the tape. The words kept repeating in my head as I stared at my trembling hands, still feeling the weight of the USB drive I'd dropped into the mailbox 30 minutes ago. A strange calm had settled over me now, replacing the violent storm that had raged inside for weeks. 3 hours earlier, I hadn't even known what her face looked like. Now I couldn't unsee her mascara-streaked cheeks, her quivering lips forming desperate explanations I barely processed. My kitchen still smelled like her perfume, something expensive and floral that clung to the air like an accusation. The scent made my stomach churn as I poured another glass of wine. The third? Fourth? The bottle was nearly empty now. Strange how time works when your life implodes. 3 weeks since discovery. 2 days since planning. 3 hours since confrontation. 30 minutes since revenge. When I first found the messages on Daniel's phone, my body reacted before my mind could catch up. First came the physical symptoms: lungs forgetting how to pull in air, heart hammering so violently I pressed my palm against my chest to keep it from bursting through. Then the cold spread from my center outward, numbing my fingertips as I scrolled through months of betrayal documented in brief digital conversations, meetup locations, times when I'd be working late, heart emojis and promises that turned my stomach inside out. I hadn't screamed, hadn't thrown things. Instead, I carefully replaced his phone exactly as I'd found it and walked to the bathroom on legs that didn't feel like mine. The woman in the mirror looked normal. Brown eyes, shoulder-length hair I'd recently highlighted, skin perhaps a shade paler than usual. Nothing about her revealed the seismic shift that had just occurred beneath her feet. Only her eyes held the truth, pupils so dilated they nearly swallowed the iris. The eyes of someone in shock. He noticed nothing when he came home that night. I served dinner, pasta primavera, his favorite, and asked about his day with mechanical precision. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, like I was listening to someone else speak, someone better at pretending. He mentioned a difficult client meeting, a delayed project deadline, normal things, lies stacked upon lies. I nodded at appropriate intervals, my mind calculating, processing, planning. Each smile that crossed my face felt like a fracture spreading across glass. I slept beside him that night, my body rigid, maintaining inches of careful distance. His breathing remained steady while I stared at the ceiling, mapping out my next steps with cold precision. Morning came with no rest but perfect clarity. I would not confront. I would not accuse. I would gather evidence, understand the full scope of his betrayal, and only then decide how to proceed. The tactical part of my brain, the part that had made me successful in corporate negotiations, took control while the emotional center went temporarily, mercifully numb. The following days passed in a strange haze of normal routines and secret investigation. I maintained our morning schedule, coffee prepared exactly how he liked it, kiss on the cheek as he left for work, cheerful reminders about evening plans. But the moment the door closed, I became someone else entirely. I checked credit card statements, phone records, location histories. I created spreadsheets tracking inconsistencies in his stories against proven whereabouts. The methodical work kept me functioning when emotional overload threatened to shut me down completely. Her name was Alexandra. I discovered this on day 3, when a credit card receipt for a hotel showed 2 breakfast orders, one with his standard black coffee and egg white omelet, the other with a latte and fruit plate marked Alexandra P. Such a small detail to confirm what I already knew, yet seeing her name printed in black and white sent me to the bathroom, heaving until nothing remained but bitter acid. This wasn't a one-time mistake. Their affair had started 8 months ago, 8 months of lying to my face, of coming home with her scent hidden beneath hurried showers, of fabricated work emergencies and non-existent client dinners. 8 months while I planned our 5-year anniversary trip, researched fertility options, and told my mother he was working too hard when he missed her birthday celebration. I learned more about Alexandra Pearson in 1 week than I had learned about some friends in years. 36 years old, junior partner at a rival firm, recently divorced, lived in a luxury apartment downtown. Always perfectly put together, according to her Instagram. Sleek dark hair, curated wardrobe, lifestyle posts that radiated confidence and success. The kind of woman who would never find herself in my position, methodically documenting her husband's infidelity in color-coded spreadsheets while pretending everything was normal. I almost confronted him countless times. The words built up behind my teeth during dinners, movie nights, the rare moments of intimacy I now endured rather than enjoyed. But each time I swallowed them back. Confrontation would bring drama, denials, perhaps even false reconciliation, but not justice, not the bone-deep reckoning I craved. So I waited, gathering information like ammunition, storing it for when it would inflict maximum damage. The plan crystallized on a Tuesday evening when Daniel mentioned an upcoming business trip. 3 days in Chicago for meetings that I now knew were fictional. The spreadsheet confirmed Alexandra had booked flights for the same dates. I nodded and suggested he pack his new gray suit, the one I'd bought him for Christmas, while something cold and decisive clicked into place inside me. I spent those 3 days in methodical preparation. First, adjusting our home security system, ensuring cameras covered every entrance with high-definition clarity. Next, contacting a private investigator recommended by a divorce attorney I'd quietly consulted. The PI's questions were direct, professional, devoid of the pity I'd grown to despise in my own eyes when I looked in the mirror. Within hours, I had confirmation of what I already suspected. Alexandra wasn't just sleeping with my husband, she was also maintaining a relationship with someone else, someone who believed they were exclusive. His name was Richard Pearson. Not her husband as I'd initially assumed, her ex-husband's brother. The complication of this revelation almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead, I filed it away as another piece in the puzzle I was assembling. The trap I was setting required perfect timing, flawless execution. One misstep and it would collapse into nothing more than the pathetic flailing of a wronged wife. Exactly what Daniel would expect, what he could manage and minimize. The morning Daniel left for his fictional Chicago meetings, I kissed him goodbye at the door, wished him luck with the Stevenson account, and watched him drive away. The moment his car turned the corner, I moved into action with the precision of someone who'd rehearsed these steps 100 times in their mind. Calls were made. Arrangements confirmed. Surveillance activated. Then I waited. For 2 days, I moved through my normal routine. I went to work, attended meetings, made dinner, called my mother. I watched TV shows I couldn't later recall and responded to texts with appropriate emojis. But beneath this performance of normalcy, I monitored the security feed, checking my phone for notifications from the motion sensors I'd installed. I knew exactly when they would return, having gained access to Alexandra's flight information. The PI had confirmed they would be coming to our house, my house, the following afternoon when they thought I'd be at my weekly yoga class. The anticipation should have made me anxious, but instead it brought an eerie calm. The kind that settles over battlefields in the moment before the first shot is fired. I slept better than I had in weeks, dreamless and deep, waking refreshed on the morning everything would change. I dressed with particular care that day, not for Daniel, but for myself. The navy dress that hit just above the knee, classic pumps, subtle makeup that emphasized my eyes. I looked like a woman in control, not one being controlled by circumstances. I prepared the house as if for guests, vacuum lines on the carpet, fresh flowers on the coffee table, countertops gleaming. Everything perfect, everything normal, everything a lie. When my phone buzzed with alerts that the security system had detected movement at the front door, I wasn't surprised. I was ready. I watched through the discreet camera feed as Daniel used his key, checking over his shoulder before ushering Alexandra inside. I observed them moving through my home with the comfortable familiarity of people who had done this before, her hand trailing across my furniture, his arm around her waist as they laughed about something I couldn't hear. I waited until they had disappeared upstairs before quietly entering through the back door, every movement calculated, silent. I stood in my own kitchen, listening to the sounds of betrayal playing out above me, and felt strangely detached, like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. The cameras were recording everything, both the security system and the additional devices I'd hidden days before, evidence compiling in digital perfection. When the doorbell rang, the sudden noise echoed through the house like a gunshot. I knew who it was, the final piece of my carefully orchestrated plan. Upstairs, frantic whispers and hurried movements. I stayed perfectly still in the kitchen as Daniel came rushing down the stairs, hastily buttoning his shirt, panic etched across his face when he spotted me. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, a fish suddenly finding itself on dry land. I said nothing, my silence more powerful than any accusation. Behind him, Alexandra appeared on the stairs, her expression morphing from confusion to horror as her eyes met mine. The doorbell rang again, more insistent this time. I moved past Daniel as if he were a piece of furniture, something inanimate and unimportant. I opened the front door to find exactly who I expected, Richard Pearson, looking confused and concerned. The anonymous text he'd received, not from my phone, of course, never leave evidence, had suggested Alexandra was in trouble at this address. His relief at seeing me, a stranger, quickly shifted to confusion when Alexandra appeared in the hallway behind me. What followed was chaos I had anticipated but experienced with surprising detachment. Alexandra's desperate explanations, Daniel's pathetic attempts to assert control over the situation, Richard's growing anger as understanding dawned. I stood in the center of the storm I had created, watching it all unfold exactly as planned. When Alexandra broke down, mascara tracking dark rivers down her cheeks, when she followed me into the kitchen begging for understanding, for mercy, for silence, that's when I felt the first real emotion in days. Not satisfaction, not vindication, something more complex, something that tasted like power. Her whispered pleas tumbled out between sobs. Richard couldn't know. Her relationship with him was serious. They were talking about marriage. She'd made a mistake with Daniel. She would end it immediately. Please don't tell Richard everything. Each desperate word confirmed what I already knew. She had far more to lose than I did now. I looked at her tear-stained face, this woman who had spent months taking what was mine without a moment's thought for the damage she was causing, and I felt nothing. No pity, no connection, just the cold certainty of what needed to happen next. I left her crying in my kitchen and walked back to where the men were engaged in tense conversation. Richard's face was flushed with anger, Daniel's pale with fear. Neither of them recognized the moment for what it was, the calm before the final strike. I suggested Richard take Alexandra home, that everyone needed time to process. Reasonable, measured, the voice of sanity in an insane situation. As they left, Alexandra still crying, Richard stone-faced and silent, I caught her eye one last time. I saw the flicker of hope there, the belief that perhaps I would keep her secrets after all. Women protecting women, sisterhood in the face of male deception. I let her believe it for those few seconds before closing the door. Daniel started talking the moment we were alone. Explanations, justifications, promises. His words washed over me without penetrating. I went upstairs to the guest bedroom where I'd been sleeping secretly for days, locked the door, and sent the email I'd drafted earlier. To Richard's personal account. A simple message with video attachments showing exactly what had been happening in my bedroom while I was supposedly at yoga. Multiple dates, multiple betrayals. The full scope of their deception laid bare in high-definition clarity. The drive to the mailbox 30 minutes later felt like passing through another dimension. The USB drive contained everything, not just today's encounter but weeks of compiled evidence, text messages, hotel receipts, location data. The complete history of their betrayal packaged neatly in digital format, addressed to Richard with a note explaining that he deserved to have all the information before making decisions about his future. Now, sitting in my kitchen with the empty wine bottle, I wonder what happens next. The revenge has been executed, the plan flawlessly implemented, yet the satisfaction I expected feels hollow, insufficient to fill the cavern their betrayal carved inside me. Perhaps that's the nature of vengeance. It cauterizes the wound but doesn't heal it. It prevents further bleeding but leaves a scar. My phone buzzes with a text from Daniel. He's staying at a hotel tonight. We need to talk tomorrow. Figure things out. I don't respond. There's nothing left to figure out. Another text arrives, unknown number. It's from Richard. 2 words, thank you. I close my eyes and let the exhaustion wash over me. Tomorrow I'll call the divorce attorney. Tomorrow I'll start dismantling the life we built together. Tomorrow I'll begin the process of becoming someone new, someone shaped by betrayal but not defined by it. But tonight I allow myself this moment of dark completion. My husband's mistress showed up at my door crying. I sent her man the tape. The words still echo in my mind, but now they feel less like a confession and more like a declaration of independence.